Hi, everybody. Ray and Steve back. We're back with Counting Tracks, episode number 2. If you just watched episode number 1, you're probably watching this right after because they're coming out at the same time. So we're going to jump right into it. Steve, how's it going, my man?
I'm doing quite well. How are you today?
I'm doing good. So tell us what we're diving into for episode 2 today.
We are going to go into Dirt by Alice in Chains.
Awesome. So
Uh,
should we just declare me the winner already, or? Okay,
I do think this is one of the best albums to come out of that era as a whole.
I
Um,
agree.
Exception of Unplugged, but that's another story. Uh,
Uh,
we're going to do like we did last time.
Hell yeah.
Zero for the song if it's just if you like it, but it's nothing great.
Hmm.
+1 if it rocks your world, and -1 if you just skip it.
Hmm.
Seeing it live, go use the restroom, get a beer.
Right.
Maybe need a beer to listen to it.
All right, so I'm gonna let you dive into it and start us off. So, track one is "Them Bones," I see. So, give me your thoughts on "Them Bones."
I think it's probably one of the best tracks to start an album in a long time.
Agreed.
Just that chugging, continually going up the scale opening,
Hmm.
screaming, and I don't know, it just, for some reason, when I got that album, which I got before Facelift, I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, this is a band I'm going to listen to for the rest of my life.
Oh yeah, I can absolutely see that. I mean, I'm gonna be honest. This song, it's a really ripping opener. Personally, it's not my favorite, but I don't think you could have picked a better opening track. Absolutely. Um, I mean, if we were listening to it on the radio, I'd probably say zero. If we're in concert, I'm going to say +1 all day long. I know that doesn't help with what we're doing here, so I'm going to settle on zero just for continuity's sake. But it's definitely they don't start out behind. They start out with a banger. That's for
Yep.
sure. So
It's compact. It's not a long song. It just wakes you up and says, hey, we're here. Listen.
absolutely. So I'm gonna go with zero, and I may have talked over you. I apologize. Remind me, or maybe you didn't give it. What are you scoring them bones?
I'm giving it a 1.
One. Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. All right. So now we are at number 2. Damn that river. Any river, if you're upset at one, I suppose. Um, I love this song, but I'll let you start it out. What are your thoughts on Damn River?
I do like it. I like the wordplay, um, being damn that river.
Mhm.
Um, but to me, it's just a song that's there. I wouldn't skip past it, but I would give it a 0. It's just it's there. I listen to it if I'm in the mood. With this album, it's tough not to want to get to other songs, but this
That's
is
a
what I
very good point. You and anybody that knows Alice in Chains, you know this already, but anybody that might be listening to this and enjoying what we're doing and want to listen to this, as we get through these songs, even though you may not hear all of them, this is not the top tier of the album. We're not even in that ballpark yet. But these are definitely great opening tracks. Damn River, I like it. I like the wordplay. I like the tempo. Um, I like the irony of the lyrics. So I mean, I like all of it. So I'm going to give it a +1 for sure. I would absolutely love to have seen that one in concert for sure. And honestly, I don't think they didn't do a lot of touring for a lot of reasons, mostly because Layne had drug issues. But this is not one I don't think they maybe a handful of times played. Like not very often, I don't think at all, if at all. But you know, I'm not 100% on that. But so I'm gonna go +1, and now we're into track number 3. This one is definitely not everybody's taste. It's one of the longer ones, if not the longest track on the album. Actually, it is the longest track on the album at just over 6 minutes. Rain When I Die. So it probably will, but that's just because I live in northeastern Pennsylvania. Tell me your thoughts on Rain When I Die.
I really like it from start to finish. Even though it is longer, my musical tastes tend to go towards longer songs and like Dave Matthews Band and some stuff like
Mhm.
that. So the length of it doesn't bother me. I really like it. I gave it a 1. It's just one of those songs I can listen to anytime it's on. We'll just go to
Yeah,
the track list and just listen to that song.
yeah. I'm with you, man. I'm with you. I'm not one. This might be one spot where our musical tastes drastically differ, and I'm not one to necessarily be a fan of longer songs. I'm just not. I have the attention span of a gnat. So if they're like over 3.5 minutes, it usually loses me. Um, but this is one of the few that I will listen to it all day long, just because the lyrics are awesome. More importantly, the guitar is awesome, and just I mean, it needs to be 6 minutes. Like I don't even know what an edited down version of that would sound like. So I'm gonna grade that as well, plus one. Absolutely. I think that is vastly underrated, and and if you really sit and listen to the lyrics, I can't imagine what this guy was going through at this time in his life. I mean, I couldn't imagine.
That's truly probably one of my favorite aspects of Alice in
Yeah.
Chains, and then even Nirvana that we're going to do next.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I mean, this guy put his heart into these songs, and uh, he was hurting, whether it
Yeah.
was emotionally, physically, from withdrawal, whatever. Like, just such a
Mhm.
tragic life. But
Yeah.
we have three awesome albums and unplugged,
Yeah.
and EPs and whatnot. But
Couple
yeah,
EPs. Yeah. Mhm.
I kind of consider it a blessing to have what we have.
I agree with you
Bands
a
like
thousand percent. I hope anybody that's listening to this, if all you know is, Man in the Box from the first episode or Rooster, which we'll get to in a little bit here, this album especially, if you want to see what Alice in Chains should have been, this is it. And they were this, I think, for a short while, and it petered out pretty quickly. And the next album, they went in a drastically different direction, and I think a lot of that was because of Layne's condition. But um, my vastly overly exaggerated point I'm trying to make is, in my opinion, this album is peak Alice in Chains. Like this is it. What are your thoughts in that
to
regard?
that point. I mean, I completely agree.
Very, very, very much agree with all your thoughts on Rain When I Die, and everyone out there, honestly, just go give it a listen. It's worth listening to. Absolutely. This next one, top three. Might be any one of the top three, depending on what day it is. Down in a hole for me. I'm going to hijack this one and just tell you right off the bat, it's plus one for me. It's just I don't know. It hits home with me, the lyrics and everything else, and it's almost haunting. It's so good, and just the way that the music is structured and the lyrics, and it's the title speaks for itself. Down in a hole. I mean, we don't have to spell out what that's about. So I give it plus one all day long. So tell me what you think of Down in a Hole.
Oh, same, same. Um, I think this is like Lane's diary.
Hmm.
And don't know if I want to be saved.
Yeah.
Like, I know they're writing songs. Damn, couldn't somebody listen? I
Yeah.
mean, it's easy to say in hindsight, but this album's basically saying I ain't gonna be here for much longer.
Oh
Um,
yeah. Yeah.
Especially when you listen to Facelift. I mean, it has dark stuff, but it's not like this. This is a dark album from start to finish.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I mean, you listen to this song and the first words, "Bury me softly in this world." Look at the Dirt album cover. The album is called Dirt. There's a song called Dirt. I think you just made the point. I mean, he wasn't hiding what he was going through. Um, you know, and how he came up with this, and I just mean an album as a whole, not even this song. How him and Jerry came up with this, and Sean and Mike too. But during this album, they kicked Mike Starr out of the band. So the fact that they played half a tour, then replaced the bass player, then this just becomes their best album, then they essentially disappear, is why I love this band, because they're so weird and like who does that? I mean, am I
Yeah,
making sense or am I just rambling?
I get, and honestly, I think that's a big part of grunge in general.
Mhm.
You know, there are the bands that are still around that made it, but these guys did not want to be famous. You know, and I think that you see that toll on them.
Yeah,
You know, both him and Kurt, like they didn't want it. They just wanted to
yeah,
goof around and play songs and be up on stage, and it's a heavy thing. It's a heavy burden to carry without knowing what you're getting into. I wouldn't want to be famous and walk down the street and have people clamoring for you. I mean, I'm sure there's a high to that, but
yeah.
after a while, like I just want to sit on the couch and watch TV and go get pizza. Um,
Fair. That's fair. And you know, and to be fair, I'm kind of the same way. I mean, I say that, but I mean, I think it would be awesome, you know, if somebody recognized me, probably for the first 10 minutes, and then I would never want to do it again. But so yeah, I mean, I couldn't imagine getting hassled in airports or hotels or, you know, anywhere else, especially when you're struggling with whatever you're struggling with. Now, I mean, uh, uh, I agree with you. I don't know that either of them necessarily wanted it, but I it surprised me because when I heard this album, I was like you. I knew Man in the Box. I knew they were. It was a band called Alice in Chains, but it didn't blow my mind. And then I heard Rooster, and then I was like, okay, this is something I could sink my teeth into. And I remember being at a place called the Game Studio, which was a place where I grew up, where we, as teenagers, would play these games like D&D and Magic and all this kind of stuff. And there was a guy there, a grunge-looking guy that I was trying to be friends with because he was older than me. And I was like, "What are you listening to?" And he said, "I just picked up Dirt." So that day, I went home and begged my mom to buy me the Dirt album, and she got it for me like a week later. And I didn't know anything about it except Rooster, but I loved it from the minute I listened to it. And it's a shame that this was such a short-lived peak of fame for them because I only think they maybe did a handful of shows for this record, and then I think Layne kind of fell off the tracks. Speaking of falling off the tracks, the next one is Sick Man. Um, give me your thoughts on track number 5 here, Sick Man.
I do like it. Again, the overtones of drug usage. I did give it a zero. I don't hate it at all.
Mhm.
Um, I just think in the pantheon of this album,
Yeah.
it's mid tier. You know,
Yep.
it's still a great song, but there's still many more awesome ones to come. So, I had to be fair and put some parity in there. So I did have to give it a zero.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I'm gonna give Sick Man -1. Uh, just not a fan. Um, I mean, it's okay. It's has a weird tempo to it, and it's just not. I don't know. I think they were trying to do something there with the sound. I don't exactly know what they were going for, but it's just not. It doesn't sound like the rest, and it's not something that I have ever found. You know, it's always been the bathroom break song, to steal the analogy from earlier. So I'm gonna go with -1 for Sick Man.
Totally get what you're saying, and I can see it. I think Sick Man is my confusion from
Okay,
Facelift on this album
fair
because
enough.
it's in a different time signature. It's not quite. It's almost uneasy the way it's
Mhm.
played. Um, and I think just again from a musical background that's why. I mean, I didn't give it a one like I gave Confusion, but I think that's really has a little extra pull for me is for that reason.
Very good point. Very good point. And yeah, I am not musically inclined. Obviously, you are. Maybe that is exactly it. The time signature is different. Something is different about it that it just doesn't resonate with me the same way for some reason. This next one, however, they were back to realizing what they were doing. This one, in all fairness, most Alice in Chains fans, even if you're fair weather, know this. Jerry Cantrell, the guitar player, wrote this about his father, who was a soldier in Vietnam, which is essentially what the song is about. And I love it. This is one of the first. I mean, I shouldn't say this album is the first, but this is one of the first songs where it's really noticeable, where you hear Layne doing the cooing in the beginning and throughout the song, and that's something that he did that I've never heard anyone else do to the extent that he did, and have it like blow my mind. Like if he didn't do that, I don't think this album or the catalog in general or the band would be nearly as held in high as a regard. Does that make sense?
Totally.
Yeah.
I
And
would pretty much, any band that I like personally would love to see them cover it,
oh
just
yeah,
to get it back out there.
and
It's
no one
insane.
does.
Yeah,
Yep.
and I think maybe it's out of reverence, to be honest. Um, no, I mean, because theoretically, even the best band in the world, whoever someone's favorite band might be,
Yep.
they're not going to do it justice.
No,
Um,
you're right. Um,
to come back on Unplugged after what, like a year of not even playing together, and
3 years.
playing this song,
Yeah.
like I don't know, it's another
Uh,
level.
they played the song Pitch Perfect,
Yeah,
and that is to this day what blows my mind. And we're going to do an episode on the Alice Unplugged. But for those that don't know, when this album came out in '92, they did maybe a month's worth of touring. Layne was screwed up. Mike Starr was screwed up. They kicked Mike Starr out of the band, and they stopped the tour. Then they didn't do anything until they unplugged 3.5 years later. And that was the only thing they did, aside from a couple of openings for Kiss that same year. So you're absolutely right. After not doing anything for 3 years, to sit and sing like this and have it sound better than it sounds on the album, I don't know a lot of singers that could pull that off. I really don't. Um, people love to talk Guns N' Roses and Van Halen and AC/DC and all these arena acts. I defy somebody to sit and sing a song pitch perfect after not being in the public eye for almost 4 years. And I'll fight anyone that wants to argue that point with me. But as usual, I'm on a soapbox again. So tell me your a little more in-depth thoughts on Rooster, please.
it's a top 10 song for me overall.
Yeah.
And I think that says a lot just by that. Like, I, I'm actually at a loss of like even what to say. To me, it's a perfect song from all angles, both melodically, the lyrics, the meaning behind it.
Mhm.
it it's an epic song.
It is. It is. And this song in particular is one of the reasons I wanted to do this kind of a podcast in general when Steve brought up this idea because yeah, a lot of the Alice in Chains fans are going to know Rooster because that is one of the couple that are still played on the radio. But a lot are not because a lot of people just know Man in the Box. And anybody that listens to this, I'm telling you, if you only want to listen to one song on this album, listen to Rooster because it's like nothing you've ever heard. And if you realize this is about a guy in Vietnam that doesn't know if he's going to be alive or dead or make it home or whatever, it's really something to listen to. So I definitely recommend checking it out to anybody that is even remotely interested. Um, Number 7. Now this is where the album is kind of, I don't know, Junkhead. So give me your thoughts. Again, obviously we're staying with the drug motif. Kel Surprise. What are your thoughts on Junkhead?
Doesn't do much for me, uh,
No.
at all. Um, it's not that it's a bad song, but I did have to give it a -1. Um, wouldn't go out of my way to see it. I wouldn't be looking up videos of it live on YouTube. Yeah, that's kind of
Yeah.
unfortunately because we've lost so many of these artists, kind of what you have to do. But
Yeah.
yeah, I just didn't dig it, to be honest.
No, same. I agree with you. It's a little bit, uh, and this is going to sound stupid, but it's what I think. And not that the other songs don't, but I think this song, when you listen to it, it glorifies drug use in a way that I don't particularly care for. Um, and listen, to each their own. I am far from an angel, but if you listen to the other songs in this album, he's talking about the agony that he's going through. If you listen to this one, he's talking about being screwed up and being happy about it. And maybe he was doing that to, tell the story of when the drugs are talking to you, you're screwed up. I don't know, but I mean, it just never. never resonated with me. Uh, it's kind of the music kind of just seems like leftover stuff that they kind of jazzed up a little bit and made into something. You know, it's what it is. Like you said, it's a skipper. It's a -1 for me. And by the way, I don't know if I said it during my Rooster diatribe, but Rooster is +1 all day long. So I'll go with that. So I'm assuming -1 for you. Is that what I heard for
Yep.
Junkhead?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, we're definitely in agreement there. I definitely think, like you said, to those listening, give the album a listen. All these songs are absolutely worth listening to, and you'll form your own opinions. And we welcome those. So please, show some comments. You tell us why Junkhead's awesome. I would love to hear it. Um, so the next one, the title track, number 8 on the album. Not often you see a title track that far down on the album. We have Dirt, or as Layne says on the live album, this is a song called Dirt from Dirt. So tell us a little bit about the song Dirt, Steve.
I really like it. As a weird personal aside, I'm generally not big on bands having songs on albums that are the album name.
Yeah.
As odd as that might sound, because it's prevalent. It
Mm-hmm.
has been for the history of music.
Sure.
But so I kind of went into it expecting not to like it.
Yeah.
Myself, well, this is Alice in Chains. It's
Mm-hmm.
probably good. They probably picked it for a reason. Gave it a fair listen, and it's I wouldn't say a 1, but I would give it a 0. It's one I would listen to at any point. Just that opening right there.
Yep.
Yeah, that's just
And that's
music.
that.
It's down.
Yep. I agree with you. So I'm not gonna, as if anyone cares what my opinion is, I'm not gonna keep anyone in suspense. I'm +1 on Dirt all day long. I just think the guitar is wicked. I like the guitar. I like the lyrics. If you actually listen to the song, I mean, listen, I'm not glorifying anything about this. The whole album is about drug use, but I mean, this is a pretty prolific song if you listen to it. I mean, it, basically explaining exactly how you feel, comparing yourself to a pile of dirt, and actually making it make sense. To this day, I love it, and I just the music. It's heavy. It's slow. It has that Sabbathy vibe to it almost, and I just love it. +1 for me, absolutely, absolutely.
And I think for this song,
Go
I'm
ahead.
just going to leave it with the second verse, which is I want to taste dirty, a stinging pistol, in my mouth,
Yeah,
on my tongue. I want you to
yeah.
scrape me from the walls and go crazy like you made me. That's some deep, dark stuff right there.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, definitely, if you're looking for a pick me up, maybe facelift first, not this.
That's a
Um,
little more jazzier and clanny.
yeah, yeah, maybe Sunshine. Start with that. Godsmack, not the band that's terrible. The song Godsmack from Dirt, album 9 or track 9, excuse me. Um, I love it. Um, I'm going to say I love it, and then I'm going to say I'm going to give it a 0. I love it. I don't know that I would go out of my way to have it played for me, but it is definitely one I listen to if it's not a skipper for sure. I did not know when I was a teenager that this was a euphemism for heroin use. But I just thought the words Godsmack were cool. I didn't know what it meant at the time, but I thought that sounds pretty cool. Maybe not so much now, but I think it has a really cool groove to it. Um, and it's a little faster than a lot of their stuff, which is kind of cool. So I like it. It's another deep track. What are your thoughts on Godsmack, Steve?
I'm not a fan.
No,
I gave it a -1. I think part of that connotation, though, is personal history at that time and losing a friend.
fair.
And that song really, I mean, you would think it would make me like the song, right? Like, do you remember someone by? But it was around that same time
I get
and
it.
they overdosed. And I couldn't get through it. I mean, maybe I should go back and listen to it again. I did kind of listen, like I said, during the past week to them again. And I
Yeah.
couldn't get through it. So
Okay.
Based on that, I would just have to go for a walk, and maybe it's just because it's that good.
I'm not going to say that. I'm definitely not going to say that, but I definitely think it's worth a listen. Although I completely understand where you're coming from. Uh, Things happen in your life and certain songs hit you. My father died when I was 11, and there was a song on the radio that has nothing to do with death or anything morbid, but it makes me cry like a baby every time I hear it because it happened right around that time. And it's a Journey song called "When You Love a Woman," of all things, which was their big Steve Perry comeback album that they never did anything with. But the song was played constantly, and for whatever reason, it sticks with me that way. So I know what you're talking about. So let's go to track number 10. I'm going to let you take this because there's nothing for me to say about it. I think it's worthless. It's 43 seconds. It's
Yep.
Tom Iara from Slayer basically yelling, uh, negative 30, if that counts, negative one if we're playing for real. Um,
Aside from the
it,
red rum reference at the end of it, I have no
yeah,
use for this song.
same.
It's almost like it's a riff off of Iron Man. Um,
I'm guessing that's what they were going for. I don't know why.
yes, I
Uh,
don't know like why it's on there. I think it would have been done better, and I've seen other bands do this where it would just be as a segue. If they went
yeah.
from Godsmack with that segue of that music and just didn't title it and went into the next song,
Hmm.
I, and when we get there, you'll see. I think they would have had something brilliant.
Yeah.
But like I said, it's like 43 seconds. It's basically screaming.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's people out there that that love it and bang their head to it, but
Yeah.
yeah,
And I mean, the reason I'm not even playing it in the background is because literally there's nothing. I mean, there's no real guitar to hear. There's nothing. It's just kind of an interlude, if you will, if that's still a thing. I see. These are the kind of things, like these little 43-second things. Like I don't understand the point. Because I mean, it could be the best thing you've ever done, but what is anyone going to find interesting in 43 seconds? I mean, I just don't know. Like, so why you would waste your time doing it? I don't know. I would have much rather the worst Layne song in the world than 43 seconds of this. And that's just because it's not a song. It's not anything against Tom Ayera from who's the lead singer from Slayer, who's the guy that's doing the screaming in the background. I just don't understand the point of it. Um, Number 11, though, which is what you were saying, Hate to Feel, that one I like. So tell us about Hate to Feel.
I do enjoy it. I'm going to give it a zero, just again in comparison to the rest of the album.
Mm-hmm.
But going back to my previous point, if it was Godsmack, that as an interlude woven together with these two songs,
Yeah.
I think it'd probably be one of the best moments on the album outside of Rooster. Um, I don't know. I think part of it too is Ironclad just throws it off there for a
Yeah.
second. You're like, what the hell did I just listen to? And then you kind of
Yeah.
just don't get it in the next song. But I do like it. It's not that I don't like it. It's just not, again, not top tier for me.
No, no, it's not. And yeah, and for those that are watching this, I just realized it says untitled. So on some pressings, it's called Ironclad. On some, it's called Untitled. Literally, like Steve said, that's all it is. So there's not much more to say about it. Hate to Feel, you know, I like it. I would put that one in the zero category for me. Hate to Feel. Um, I could kind of take it or leave it, to be honest with you. I wouldn't go out of my way to listen to it, but I also wouldn't be disappointed if I missed it either. So um, I don't have a lot to say about that. I loved your point about the three previous tracks kind of getting pieced together because they do, all three of them kind of have a vibe. And honestly, I'm just figuring that out right now. So even I'm learning something, people. So that's all pretty much I have to say about Hate to Feel because this is if there's any spot where this album gets off track for me, it's this part right here. Before we do that, remind me what was your score for Hate to Feel?
Zero.
Zero. Okay. So Angry Chair is next. This one is and I'll say this just because I've always found it interesting. This is the one song that I know of that like Layne wrote everything. He wrote the guitar, he wrote the words. Jerry filled it in a little bit here and there, but even if you hear Jerry Cantrell, he gives Layne all the credit in the world, and he loves the song. And I mean, the song, I love it because it's like a what 2 3 chord progression on a guitar, so it's not hard to play for somebody like me that doesn't know how to play. Um, and it's one of the few songs that you see Layne play guitar. So that's kind of neat for me as a fan, especially on that unplugged, which again we'll get to. Somebody that probably didn't go out of his house for 3 years to just pick up a guitar, even though it's only 2 chords. A guy that's not known to play guitar. I thought, that's kind of cool. Sitting on an angry chair. I mean, you got to give it up for that kind of wordplay. But again, it kind of falls into that "Welcome to the Jungle" category for me. And not that it was overplayed on the radio, but I listened to it over and over and over, and I just listened myself right out of it. So for that reason, I have to give it a 0. But tell me what you think of Angry Chair.
I agree with everything that you said. I love it. I love the uniqueness of it. Um, Basically, the video for Angry Chair and the video for Grind used to creep me out when I was younger, in a good way.
Yeah.
But those two in particular really
Yep.
kind of made me feel uneasy. So I'm going to give it a 1. Um,
Cool.
I do think.
And I would agree with. And you know what? If it were tomorrow, I might say that this song isn't, as far as I know, this doesn't have anything to do with drugs. This is more about, I don't know, bondage or I don't know what, but
See,
it's
that's interesting
different.
that you say that. Um,
Yeah.
my take on it from the video and that at the time, and I could see definitely the BDSM thing
Mm,
during this window. If I recall correctly, if I'm wrong, please let me know. But I
mm.
believe he was reconnecting with his father,
You know
and
what?
I always took it as a punishment thing, whether he was punishing himself for it or I don't know. I never gave it like a ton of thought, but I always took it as a little kid being put in the corner, whether by themselves, maybe Layne in this case punishing himself for some things that happened, or putting his dad in the corner, which is
Wow.
the way of thinking about it that I personally like way more. If you listen
Yeah.
to it that way,
Hmm.
because they didn't have the greatest relationship. I mean, honestly, the guy did kind of show up when they were
Yeah.
famous. Um, but,
Yeah.
apparently everything worked out and went well. It was part of that 3 year deal when they were kind of gone.
Yeah.
But that was my take on it. I think just that little added extra kind of interpretation of it is why I've always liked it.
Very cool. Very cool. I actually didn't know that. So I mean I'm fairly up to date with my Alice stuff, and I did not know that, but that makes a lot of sense, especially if he was trying to reconnect with family or his father. We're running a little long here, so let me just skip right down. We're at the end here. Um, Another track that's depending on what day it is, I can go back and forth. Wood. And this one is a closer. This is a memorable closer. Tell me your thoughts on Wood, Steve.
Despite being on the single soundtrack and played everywhere and played in elevators and all that, I still love the song. Um, the concept of the album as a whole,
Yeah,
from how it starts with them bones and ends with if I would, could you?
yeah,
It's almost like he's asking the audience, like, if I could
yeah,
basically get this up, can you do it too?
yeah,
Because I mean, you got to keep in mind the level of heroin usage in Seattle at that time and in the grunge scene in general. I mean, it was the drug. I think it's kind of still the drug, but um, I just like the message of it. And it kind of ends, even though it's a darker song, it ends a little more upbeat.
oh yeah,
Just that last sentence, the last line is what gets me every time. Like sometimes I'll put it on and kind of, man, do stuff and mess around
yeah,
the house.
yeah,
The end of the song always gets me, so I had to give it a 1.
yeah, yeah. No, I'm with you, man. This is another one, just again because it's so overplayed. I would absolutely, you know, want to see it in concert. I'm going to give it a +1. It's probably these days more in the 0 range for me, just because I've heard it 100,000 times. But I agree with you. There are parts of this song that get you. The last line gets you when they go into the first chorus. That whole "into the sun again." I'm like, to me, it sounds like the withdrawal song. Like I'm waking up the next day and I'm feeling it now. And I went through all this. So I did it. Can I, like you were saying, can I give it up? I don't know. Could you? I don't know. Would you? I don't know. I mean, that's a very astute point. I never thought of it that way until you just said it, but that would make sense in if you listen to the arc of the whole album with the way that it starts and the way it ends. And I think, and you said it when we were doing Facelift, uh, the closing track on Facelift, neither of us cared for. This could only be the closing track, in my opinion. Any thoughts on that?
I agree. It's the perfect closer. I mean, the only other song I think would have been acceptable would have possibly been Rooster,
Mm-hmm.
because that would be a badass way to end an album. But
Mm-hmm.
I just think the track placement, aside from the Godsmack Iron Gland, Hate to Feel run,
Yeah,
the track placement's beautiful.
I
Um,
agree.
and even looking at our scores here on the screen, it kind of reflects that ebb and flow through it. That I don't think they could have ended it with a better song than Wood.
No, I'm interested to hear the scores now. So yeah, I'm in suspense. So where did we end up?
We ended up at myself having a +3 for Dirt,
Okay. Uh-huh.
and Ray, you have +3 as well.
All right. So I didn't lose, and that's all that matters. I'm absolutely fine that they were the same because we had different tastes for different songs, and the fact that it balanced itself out to me says that that's a well balanced album. And so that's awesome, and I think that's really cool. And I think when we were playing around with this, I don't think we tied. So I think that's cool that we did. So all I'm going to say, because we're running a little over here, so I'm going to wrap this up pretty quick. But anybody listening out there, again, we appreciate it. We are brand new. We appreciate the growing pains between the card historian. We're going to have more of these come out, the counting tracks ones. There's other stuff in the works upcoming, so we appreciate your patience. Please do like, subscribe, absolutely leave comments. We would love to hear them. We hope you guys got a lot out of this. If nothing else, hopefully at least you got some new music to listen to. Even though it might not be new, hopefully it's new to you. Hopefully you like it. If you did, let us know. If you didn't, let us know. But either way, we'll be coming back next week with another one, probably another two, because I like the idea of two at a time to have some parity there. So, Steve, why don't you, we're still on the fence, so this might change, but give us a little spoiler what we might be doing next week.
I think we're going to keep with the grunge era since it's kind of our wheelhouse to begin with. Um, and I think we're going to go on to Nirvana.
Very cool.
As far as the exact albums, we're going to figure that out. I mean, there's a whole three to
TBD.
pick from. It seems to be working out well, and it's kind of showing how we could both like and dislike different songs, but in the end, we love this album equally
Hmm.
and more than Facelift, which was kind of to be expected.
Yeah,
Um, and
both
I
good. Both
hope
good.
people like this format because it's fun to do. It's fun to
It
talk about.
is. Yeah.
And even going back, I said, and listen to him this week. I haven't listened to Facelift in like 5 years as a whole.
Yeah.
So to go back and do that, driving to work and whatnot and throwing it on,
Absolutely.
Dirt's
Absolutely.
kind of permanently ingrained in my brain. But Facelift, it's been a while.
Yeah.
And,
I
uh,
agree with you. I'm gonna just end it by saying this, and Steve, you made some really excellent points. Most specifically, I want to just touch on what you said. This has been really fun to do because I think this is a different format. This is a different way of looking at it. Whether you guys agree with us or not, I mean, everyone is absolutely entitled to their own opinion, and we welcome any and all feedback, and we'd love to hear it. But hopefully, this will at least broaden everybody's musical horizons a bit. One of the reasons we started podcasting together, Steve and I, regardless of which one you might be listening to, is just because, you know, as everyone else, we just have gone through 3 years of COVID. So, all we did was work from home, sat at home. I don't know about you, Steve, but I certainly went through many periods of depression over the last couple of years. So, um, you know, podcasts are wonderful therapeutic tools to listen to, and I always feel like if you can gain some knowledge from it, it's worth a listen. I'm one of the hosts of this show, and I learned a lot today just from listening to Steve. So hopefully you guys do too, and hopefully you like and subscribe. And we will see you next week. For Steve, I'm Ray. This is Counting Tracks, Episode 2, Alice in Chains Dirt. We will see you next week with Nirvana. Until then, bye, everybody.